While most of the nation considered November 8th Election Day, that's not the case in Louisiana. On that day, Louisiana held its first round of balloting in what is called a jungle primary. All candidates from all parties are listed on the ballot in Louisiana, and if no one wins more than 50% of the votes, the top two vote-getters compete in a second round of balloting. That is happening this Saturday, December 10th. Most important nationally, Louisiana has not yet decided whether to send a Democrat or Republican to the U.S. Senate. According to the outcome between Democrat Foster Campbell and Republican John Kennedy, the U.S. Senate total will be either 52 Republicans to 48 Democrats plus allies, or 51 Republicans to 49 Democrats. 2 U.S. Congress seats will also be decided on Saturday in Louisiana. Perhaps the most interesting race is that for U.S. Congress District 3, between longtime politician Scott Angel and newcomer Clay Higgins. Both are Republicans, but in a pattern that is typical of this election season, the career politician is trailing a candidate who one Louisiana journalist describes as
career law enforcement officer who has no prior political experience, but was a YouTube sensation for a while with his Crime Stopper videos.
The career politician in this race, Scott Angel, has provided independent journalist Mike Stagg of Lafayette a goldmine of material, and he thinks the scandals surrounding Angel's close ties to the petroleum industry are responsible for this well-funded candidate's relatively poor showing in the primaries. The main scandal concerns the state's severance tax. This is the name of the tax on oil and gas extraction by which the Louisiana General Fund receives 12.5% of the value of oil and gas extracted from its reserves. Though it fluctuates with changing oil prices, this revenue comprises a major part of the state's general fund and amounts to between $1 and $2 billion every year. Scott Angel was appointed Secretary of Louisiana's Department of Natural Resources under 2 successive governors, Kathleen Blanco and Bobby Jindal. Under Jindal's administration, Scott Angel and others of the Jindal administration sought to transfer the severance tax audit authority from the Department of Revenue, the state's main tax collection agency, to the Louisiana DNR. They succeeded. Here's Mike Stagg again.
When the severance tax audit authority was moved from the Department of Revenue to the Department of Natural Resources, severance tax audit revenue fell by 99.8%, according to the legislative auditor. They won the power, but then did not use it. And this began under Angel's watch. He negotiated the agreement that resulted in the transfer of the power from the Department of Revenue to the Department of Natural Resources. And then in 2010, he was interim lieutenant governor. And then he went back to DNR for about a year and a half before he resigned to run for Public Service Commission. But during that time, under his watch, the deal that he negotiated resulted in basically a massive giveaway of revenue to the oil and gas industry at a time when the state was suffering recurring revenue shortfalls that necessitated budget cuts. Higher education in Louisiana, during the Jindal years, tuition increases were the highest here in any other state in the country. We had the deepest cuts in state support for higher education than any other state in the country. And where you have a governor who had made a commitment not to raise taxes, and you have revenue shortfalls occurring, and then you have money being basically given away to the oil and gas industry, well, then it becomes sort of a one-for-one. Every dollar you don't collect is a dollar that's cut from someplace else.
On top of this scandal, as Secretary of the Louisiana DNR, Scott Angel was cited in an ethics complaint involving a whistleblower case. Dan Collins, a land deed researcher, noticed anomalies in a bundle of land in the Atchafalaya Basin in south-central Louisiana. The Atchafalaya Basin is the largest swamp in the United States. Mike Stagg.
It turns out that the dredging of this canal that supposedly was a water quality project was actually turned into dredging of a canal for oil and gas exploration in the Atchafalaya Basin.
Whistleblower Dan Collins brought this anomaly to the attention of then DNR Director Scott Angel, under whose auspices the Atchafalayan Basin project was being conducted, and got no response. When Collins was taken off the project, he filed a whistleblower lawsuit for retaliation and won. The state of Louisiana is appealing that decision. In the most recent phase of his career, Scott Angel was elected to the Public Services Commission, essentially the state utilities board that has the power to regulate pipelines in Louisiana. This election was in November of 2012. That December, 1 month later, Angel was appointed to the board of directors of Sunoco Logistics Partners, the subsidiary of Energy Transfer Partners that is now set to take over its parent, which, of course, is the major stakeholder in the Dakota Access Pipeline. The very last leg of the Dakota Access Pipeline, a 162-mile pipeline called Bayou Bridge, constructed from Lake Charles, Louisiana, to the Mississippi River, will be subject to tariffs set by this commission. Mike Stagg.
So Angel is paid $45,000 a year to be a member of the Public Service Commission here. And he gets $380,000 a year to be a member of the board of directors of Sunoco Logistics. Yeah, what do you think his priorities are? So I contacted the Louisiana Public Service Commission and say, okay, look, is there a conflict here? He said, well, because the pipeline has not been built yet, there is no conflict.
So there you have it, a snapshot of the public service career of Republican Scott Angel, who the people of Louisiana's 3rd District may or may not elect to represent them in the U.S. Congress this coming Saturday, December 10th. I'm Greta Anderson from Pacifica Network with the voice of independent journalist Mike Stagg of Lafayette and with assistance from Wayne Parker of Pacifica affiliate WHYR in Baton Rouge.